Good evening. This is News Hour Live on GBC News and on GTV. Also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Samuela Korte. Robert Frimpong-Manso will translate the news into sign language. Let's now settle for the details. President Akufo-Addo says the poor enforcement of judgments of the Ecowas Court of Justice by member states, which currently stands at 13, poses a challenge to efforts by the court to deliver on its mandates. The president believes unless member states comply with the judgments of the court, it will be difficult to build public confidence in the court. Nana Akufo-Addo was speaking at the opening of the 11th external court session of the Ecowas Court at the court complex in Accra.
The Ecowas Court of Justice is the judicial arm of the Economic Community of West African States, charged with resolving disputes related to the community's treaty, protocols and conventions. The court is also tasked with the responsibility of hearing individual complaints of alleged human rights violations. As part of its responsibility to member states, the court is empowered under Article 26(2) of the protocol to have external sessions in member states outside the headquarters of the court. This is the first time the court is sitting in Ghana, and President Akufo-Addo, who is also the chairman of the Authority of Heads of States and Government of ECOWAS, said at the opening of the session that the ECOWAS Court, by its mandates, performs a crucial role in the integration process of the community with regard to treaty supervision and other oversight functions.
I commend the court for the work it is doing in the discharge of its various mandates, particularly its human rights mandate. I also congratulate the court for the recent award it has received, the Columbia Global Freedom of Expression Prize for 2022. This is indeed laudable, and we're all proud of the court for this achievement.
The president said Ghana places high premium on its court system and on the rule of law, which forms a strong foundation of the judiciary, and therefore is a firm believer in the existence and work of the ECOWAS Court.
The ECOWAS Court of Justice is the guarantor of our ECOWAS community norms, must ensure the observance of law and justice in the interpretation and application of the ECOWAS revised treaty, protocols, conventions, and supplementary acts of our community, and in settling disputes that arise between member states inter se or between institutions of the community arising from ECOWAS legal texts. It goes without saying that the court has a strategic role to play in the integration process of ECOWAS. The court must thus be ready at all times to assume additional responsibilities.
President Akufo-Addo, while commending the ECOWAS Court for its achievements over the years, said the time has come for the establishment of a community legal order and the harmonization of the judiciaries of member states.
Without recourse to a formal revision of the guiding protocol, to impose a rule of judicial self-restraint that will insist that an applicant for the exercise of the court's expanded jurisdiction satisfy the requirement of the exhaustion of domestic remedies prior to the successful invocation of the court's jurisdiction. Such a rule, even if judge-made, like practice directions in common law judicial jurisdictions, would align the practice and in procedure of the court in the exercise of its expanded jurisdiction with the equivalent jurisdiction of similar courts in the international sphere.
The president also called for a second look at the decision to reduce the judges of the court from 7 to 5, as provided for in the initial protocol of the court. He also touched on security threats and activities of terrorists in neighboring countries, which is hampering democracy in their countries. The ECOWAS Court over the next 11 days will sit on 60 cases of alleged human rights violations from individuals across member states.
Also at the opening ceremony on Monday morning, the Chief Justice, Justice Enimiabua said it has become imperative for Ghana to domesticate the Ecowas Treaty and the protocols on the court, and also enact implementing legislation to enable the national courts to recognize and enforce judgments of the Ecowas Court of Justice.
At the opening of the 2 weeks external court session of the Ecowas Court of Justice, the president of the Ecowas Court, Justice Edward Amoako Asante, said the presence of the court in Ghana is a recognition of the leading role played by Ghana in the integration process of ECOWAS and also the desire to deepen collaborations between the ECOWAS Court of Justice and the national courts.
The external court session is a very useful tool for us to create awareness about the court, its mandate, jurisdiction, practice, and procedure. Since ECOWAS, in its Vision 2020, evolved from an ECOWAS of states to ECOWAS of peoples, it is expedient that the people, that's the community citizens, should know the Community Court of Justice, which is their court, and therefore take ownership of it.
The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Mr. Godfred Yeboah-Dame, commended the expansion of the jurisdiction of the ECOWAS Court, but said the downside to the development is that the future of the court as an instrument for integration across sub-region remains in doubt.
The future of the court as an instrument for integration across the ECOWAS community remains in doubt due to the fact that dockets of the court contain few cases, if at all, involving tariffs, trade barriers, and other integration law issues. Instead, they are dominated by suits by individuals and non-governmental organizations alleging human rights violations. There ought to be a strategy for boosting the number of cases invoking the court's jurisdiction on account of migratory issues, non-tariff and other unfair trade measures adopted by countries in the West African community, as part of a broader strategy to enhance the court's originally conceived role as an engine for integration.
The Chief Justice of Ghana, Justice Enimiabua, speaking on the duties of the ECOWAS Court, said the court is not an appellate court of the national courts of member states.
The mandates of the National Courts of Ghana are clearly spelled out in the Constitution of Ghana and in our national laws. While our national courts operate within our municipal system, the ECOWAS Court of Justice operates at our sub-regional level. The mandates of our two courts are clearly different, and as the ECOWAS Court of Justice has often maintained, we are not in competition. The ECOWAS Court is not an appellate court over the national courts of member states. There is, however, room for collaboration in the execution of our different mandates.
Justice Enimiabua said the expansion of the ECOWAS Court requires an adequate number of judges to discharge its functions effectively, and again, it is necessary to review the 4 years non-renewable tenure of the members of the court. This is to enable the community to derive maximum benefits from their wealth of experience. The first session of the sitting commenced after the opening event. The 2-week session ends on April 1, 2022.
Now, in its assessment of the outcome of the 2021 close fishing season, the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development says fishers have welcomed the initiative as a management tool for a sustained sector. An analysis of fish catch data shows that the 2021 close fishing season in July 2021 yielded more fish catch for both artisanal and semi-industrial fleet than previous years without a close season.
Ghana's fishery sector creates jobs for about 20% of the active labor force, mostly along the country's coast, from fishers, processors, and finally to the consumer. The introduction of the close fishing season, therefore, as provided in Section 84 of the Fisheries Act 625, protects the fishing industry and ensures the continuous contribution of the sector to socio-economic growth.
The socio-economic survey, with a sample size of 211 fishers, revealed that fishers have come to embrace the close season as a management tool for sustained fishery. Most fishers indicated that they landed varying quantities of different types of fish species, and that fish catches increased immediately after the closure was lifted. The 2021 close season in July 2021 yielded more fish catch for both artisanal and semi-industrial fleet than catches in same period August in 2020, where there was no closed season.
The 2021 closed season also saw an upwelling of both small pelagic and demersal species to spawn and grow.
It is thus recommended, on the basis of this analysis, the 1 month closed season for artisanal and semi-industrial vessels should be observed between July and September, and the 2 month closed season for the industrial trawlers also be observed between July and September. The final decision to implement an additional 1 month closed season will be made in consultation with fisheries stakeholders.
To maintain the success of the initiative, the Fisheries Enforcement Unit has intensified its operations to clamp down on illegal fishing. The 2022 closed fishing season is expected to come into effect soon. For GBC News, Shirley Annan reporting.
The world is celebrating International Day of Forests today to increase awareness about the unprecedented role forests play in sustaining lives on this planet. The theme for 2022 is Forest and Sustainable Production and Consumption. On GTV Breakfast, the Director of Plantation, Ghana Forestry Commission, Mr. Brown, said the age-old problem of illegal logging and mining near the forest area still persists and are fast depleting the country's forest cover.
Let's start with the illegal logging or chainsaw operations. I mean, it's a big issue, and it's an economic issue, and it's a market issue. There's a huge demand for wood and timber products in the country, and because there's demand, these is basically supplied mainly through these chainsaw operations. And even though we've outlawed or criminalized the use of chainsaws for conversion of lumber for sale, this is ongoing because there's a demand. Unlike illegal logging, where selected trees are removed from the forest, if it's mining, virtually the whole forest cover is removed. Wow. The soil is removed, and sometimes rivers are dammed and mined.
That causes animals to now have to run away.
Yeah, I mean, it affects every aspect of the forest and the livelihood of people who live around the forest. Luckily, for the past 2-3 years, there have been serious efforts to clamp down on this and also try to regulate the activities of small-scale mining. I think the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is working on it.
It is one of the 16 protected areas managed by the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission and declared a game reserve in 1962. It sits among hills, rocks, mountains and green vegetation in the Shai Osudoku district of the Greater Accra region. This location is also a business center for tourists and lovers of nature and historical footprints. For some, it is a peaceful haven away from home. In focus today is the Shai Hills Resource Reserve Center at the Yum in Greater Accra.
This area has a land space of 51 kilometers squared with a number of culturally significant sites and a variety of fauna and flora. With two vegetations, the coastal savanna and dry evergreen forest with rich flora trees, the reserve also abounds with a diversity of about 400 plant species and Inselberg rocks. A visitor is warmly welcomed by these friendly baboons who can be likened to ashes at the entrance. Before getting to the hills, the tour guide first led us through the reserve grounds to catch a glimpse of some wildlife. There are currently 7 zebras that were brought in from South Africa and 2 ostriches from Ghana in an on-site farm. Stephen says the animals have been at the reserve for the past 10 years. The reserve has 3 primate species of baboons: the olive baboons, spot-nosed monkeys, and the green monkeys. The tour guide explains that these baboons move in groups and strike a fight when another group trespasses. He says some of these baboons are friendly and sometimes hostile towards visitors. The Museum of Natural and Cultural History at Shai was built in collaboration with the Archaeological Department of the University of Ghana. It keeps archaeological exhibits and skeins of wildlife in the reserve which are rarely seen by visitors. Miss Portia Go explains.
On my right, you get to see the skull of an olive baboon, and then the skull of a hippopotamus. You get to see the thigh bone of an elephant. When you come to my left, you get to see the skull of a crocodile. You get to see the skull of a zebra, and then you get to see the skull of a buffalo.
Besides its greenery, bat-filled caves, wildlife, mountains, and special land formation, the Shai Hills Resource Reserve Center has a rich heritage with historical footprints of the Shai people. This rock, which is shaped like an elephant, is the Manyayo Hill, which literally means the Elephant Rock. It is now home to present-day inhabitants of Manya Dopanya, also in Shai Osudoku. The Hiowayo Hill, also known as the Drum Cave, is now the present home for Doyumu and Dodowa inhabitants. From history, these caves served as hideouts for settlers from intruders and invaders. The Sayu and Aduku caves are now present-day homes for the Agomeda people who used the caves as a hiding place. Another unique feature here is its arrangements of rocks. Amazingly, these smaller rocks are carrying rather large rocks with a small opening. The Mogo Hill was used by the then Shai people to spy and alert on attacks. Amazing landscapes, green vegetation, and relatively cool atmosphere. That's what the Shai Hills Resource Reserve Center has on offer. In its natural habitat, it is the ideal weekend getaway or long-term vacation spot outside Accra City.
Three of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation's regional correspondents have been presented with a brand new Yahama motorcycle each, with a rough terrain in their respective regions, and coupled with the fact that some areas are no-go for vehicles, the bikes will ensure easy movement as they gather news.
Bikes are the most preferred means of transport in northern Ghana. Even though the regions are not congested, they are popular and almost every household owns a motorcycle for ease and convenience of moving around and gaining access to the nooks and crannies that are no-go for vehicles. Management of the public service broadcaster GBC therefore presented the motorbikes to the three reporters to help them work more effectively. Presenting the new Yahama motorbikes, GBC's acting director of television, Mr. Ebenezer Mpabing, said the motorbikes will make terrain crossing easier.
Acquiring these bikes for our reporters, seasoned reporters at that, is part of efforts we are making to bring to viewers the best of reports from the hinterlands. Wherever vehicles cannot go to, we will get there and bring the stories.
The recipients were grateful to management for the bikes.
The northern region is a rough terrain, and for me, this is one of the easiest, in fact the best way to move around if you are going to the hinterlands. You have heard that even there are places cars cannot go, but with this motorbike, access is wide open now across northern region.
Undoubtedly, the motorbike is the most cherished, most common and widely patronized means of transport in our part of the world, especially due to the traffic situations, whether at rush hour or otherwise.
Safety in the transportation of cargo and other hazardous chemicals on Ghana's transit routes took center stage at a sensitization workshop organized by the Ghana Shippers Authority and key stakeholders. The workshop also sought to educate haulage truck drivers on the need to reduce accidents on the country's transit roads. The workshop comes on the back of the unfortunate incident at Apiate on January 20.
The workshop was one of the routine engagements between the Ghana Shippers Authority and key stakeholders on one side and drivers of haulage trucks and their owners on the other side. The aim, among other things, is to ensure full compliance of regulations governing transit trade along Ghana's transit corridors. The regulatory stakeholders include the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the MTTD of the Ghana Police. They took turns to educate the drivers through demonstrations on how to ensure safe transportation of dangerous and hazardous cargo and how to avoid unnecessary costs in the shipments of transit cargo through Ghana's ports. The General Manager in charge of Marketing and Corporate Affairs at the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Esther J.B. Donko, lauded the collaboration of the key stakeholders towards revenue generation. The event of January 20 at Apiati in the Western region over explosion of hazardous chemicals on the road was an awakening call to the authority and the key stakeholders to intensify efforts at regulating the transportation of hazardous cargo and the need to sensitize drivers in the event of any accidental exposure. Ms. Benonita Bismarck is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Shippers Authority.
I think we should continue with the sensitization so that those who carry dangerous cargo, particularly along our transit corridors into the landlocked countries, they are aware of what they are carrying, the need to follow all the instructions, and in the event of any incident, how to react to save lives and also to save the cargo.
You're watching News Live on GBC News and on GTV. You're also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We'll be back with more stories. Please don't go away.
Hello, this is Business, brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN. And I am Esther Edu Ohumeu. To rein in the dollar against the cedi, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, says a syndicated loan of $2 billion is being arranged by government from some banks.
CD came under pressure sometime in February, and the reasons for that are varied. Part of it reflects the fact that we had lost access to capital markets, and therefore we were not going to be able to issue a bond this year, which has immediate implications for the availability of foreign exchange. But as you said a few moments ago, our friend from Ghana Television, the government has announced its intention to raise $2 billion from some syndicated arrangements with banks. Now, if that goes through, that should help improve the supply of foreign exchange to the economy as a whole, and therefore should impact positively on the strength of the cedi. In terms of what the Bank of Ghana has been doing, as you're aware, we have the fortnightly foreign exchange auctions where we make foreign exchange available to the system. And in the last few weeks, past 4 weeks, we have been making special allocation to the OMCs and the energy companies, as well as the cement producing companies. I can tell you that as of last week, we had completely cleared the pipeline demand for foreign exchange from these OMCs. So what you are saying in terms of tweaking the framework for the OMCs is already in place. And I think that if you talk to the OMCs, they'll tell you that the Bank of Ghana has been making foreign exchange available to them. In addition to that, we've made foreign exchange available to the market broadly. And we think all of that should help in terms of mitigating the pay.
Ghana's trade surplus narrowed to $404.9 million in February 2022, as against $432.7 million registered during the same period last year. This was in the latest Bank of Ghana report. Ghana's exports stood at $2.737 billion in February 2022, higher than the same period last year, while imports were estimated at $2.332 billion in February 2022, also higher than February 2021's estimate. The trade balance, however, stood at $109 million in January 2022, but rising crude and gold prices impacted on these figures. Gold recorded the highest export earnings of $885.2 million in February 2022. This was followed by crude oil, which registered $688.8 million of exports in February 2022, as against $510.2 million in February 2021. Cocoa exports, however, dipped to $596.8 million in February 2022. The country's overall balance of payments stood at $510.1 million at the end of December 2021, which is about 0.7% of GDP. With regards to the country's net reserves, Ghana's net reserves fell to $6.09 billion in February 2022 from $6.079 billion recorded in December 2021. This is equivalent to 4.3 months of import cover. In the latest report by the Bank of Ghana, the reserves rose marginally in January to $6.095 billion from the $6.079 billion recorded in December last year. And still from the Bank of Ghana, Ghana's debt to GDP reached 80.1% in 2021, raising concerns over the country's debt sustainability.
Total public debt for December 2021, the external component stood at 170 billion cedis, while the domestic debt is 181.8 billion cedis, according to the Bank of Ghana's summary of economic and financial data. While revenue has slightly moderated within the period, tax to GDP remained below 13%, far below the regional average of 20%. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, attributed the increased debt stock to current challenges facing the economy.
Provisional data on budget execution for 2021 indicated an overall broad fiscal deficit, cash, excluding financial sector cleanup costs, of 9.7% of GDP, against the program target of 9.4% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance for the period was a deficit of 8.9 billion cedis against a deficit target of 8.7 billion. Over the year, total revenue and grants amounted to 67.9 billion Ghana cedis, below the projected 72.5 billion Ghana cedis. Total expenditure amounted to 110.4 billion Ghana cedis, below the program target of 113.8 billion Ghana cedis. These developments impacted the stock of public debt, which increased to 80.1% of GDP.
Cabinet has been meeting since Thursday to discuss the current economic challenges to find sustainable solutions. The government is expected to adopt austerity measures to help address the fiscal mismatch and engender confidence in the Ghanaian economy.
Let's take the interbank and commodity figures for the day.
You're live on News Hour. Welcome to the energy segment. I'm Dominic Hoji. Tullow Oil says its oil pricing hedging program does not affect the taxes it pays to government of Ghana. The chief executive of Tullow Oil, Mr. Rahul Diol, said hedging has made the company resilient to weather any volatile storms in the international oil markets. Hedging is a risk management strategy which deals with reducing or eliminating the risk of uncertainty. It restricts the losses that may occur due to unknown fluctuations in prices and locks the profits therein. Oil prices have fluctuated for years and have recently crossed the $130 per barrel mark since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. The chief executive of Tullow Oil, Mr. Rahul Diol, said hedging is good under the company's Ghana Value Maximization Plan.
And the idea during 2021 was to build corporately, to build Tullow into a situation where we can weather any storm. So the hedging basically allows us to do is when oil prices drop quite a bit, it gives us protection. And so if you think about it, when we were sitting here a year ago and we were worried about oil prices dropping, and one of the key concerns that we had was that we were embarking on the Ghana Value Maximization Plan, and we wanted to have the ability to keep investing irrespective of the oil price.
Mr. Rahul Diol said the purpose of the hedging is to allow the company to invest irrespective of the fluctuation in the market.
The flip side of the hedging is that it protects you from the downside, but you give up on the upside. So what we are seeing today as Tullow, and nobody, including us, had ever anticipated prices would be at this level. But as a company, it doesn't affect the taxes, it doesn't affect the country, but Tullow's share, we do miss out on the upside. So we're paying taxes on the basis of $110 oil, but we're probably getting 80 or something. So
Tullow successfully refinanced its balance sheet, drilled highly productive wells in Ghana, and demonstrated operational excellence and financial discipline across the group. The company said this year will see a great deal of activity at its flagship Jubilee field, with investment in new infrastructure and new wells to grow production in the near term. Former Vice President of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Mr. Michael Buzumbio, is advising government against suspending the deregulation policy of the downstream petroleum sector as a measure to curb the hikes in fuel prices. Speaking with GBC News in Accra, Mr. Buzumbio said suspending the policy will not be in the best interest of the country.
Ghana in 2015 fully implemented a deregulation policy of the downstream petroleum sector, allowing marketers and importers of petroleum products to sell directly to consumers by setting their own prices. The Association of Oil Marketing Companies believes a non-deregulation market will not augur well for the economy. Former Vice President of the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Mr. Michael Buzumbio, said the deregulation policy should continue despite the present challenges.
I would not say deregulation should be halted entirely. No, I have been a proponent of deregulation right from its beginning. And the reason is this. Anything that government is very much involved, you should not expect it to go well. Because when government was fully in charge of pricing, if you recall, we used to have queues, at certain times because of national petroleum, product shortage. And that was because government would promise the players and even talk that please set the price at this level. The under recovery will pay. So the debts will be piling up, piling up.
The Bank of Ghana has a role to play in the petroleum industry in checking the depreciation of the cedi.
Petroleum products pricing, are a major contributor to inflation. So I would propose that Bank of Ghana takes keen interest in what is happening in our industry by ensuring that there's dedicated, dollars for petrol.
We now bring you some data on national power generation, Ghana's power export figures, and the water level in the Akosombo and Bui dams. That's it for the energy segment. I'm Dominic Onoji.
Lufat Tubingo's premium gift to Africa. It is common for women to develop fibroids, and approximately 75% of women are said to experience this growth in the pelvis at some point in their lifetime. Yet an aura of mystery still clouds them, especially when it comes to fibroid symptoms and treatment options. As a result, women suffer in silence and delay treatment because they believe many of the common gynecological fibroid myths that exist simply aren't true. If you suffer from uterine fibroids, your best bet is to learn as much as you can so you can make informed choices to live the life you deserve.
Truth is that scientists do not know why fibroids develop, but African American women have a higher risk for fibroids, and they are most common before a woman gets to the menopausal stage.
With fibroids, it's difficult to tell what brings it on. We've not been able to find the cause, and we've not been able to find what you can do to prevent it. But when it is present, then we can manage it.
Many women might develop uterine fibroids one day. After all, fibroids are the most frequently seen tumors of the female reproductive system, with 3 out of 4 women developing uterine fibroids in their lifetime. But being diagnosed with fibroid isn't a reason to despair.
If the fibroids are small, there's no need to fret about it, because sometimes somebody comes to you and says, oh, I did a scan, they said the fibroid is 2 centimeters. Obviously, 2 centimeters is very small and hopefully not causing any symptom.
Another misconception is that fibroids always result in infertility. An obstetrician gynecologist at the University of Ghana Medical Center, Dr. Enim Boama, says though sometimes fibroids can interfere with a woman's fertility, this is rare.
It does not cause infertility in itself unless it grows so big. So people should be mindful of that as well. But there are times when it's grown so big that it interferes with, the person's life, and to some extent getting pregnant, then we advise that let's remove it, because if you don't remove it, it will keep on growing and it will become bigger.
In recent times, some herbal medicine practitioners hype the efficacy of their products over the orthodox surgical procedure to remove fibroids. Health experts insist that undergoing surgery to remove the tumors is the approved method to actually treat fibroids.
A lot of them in reality, as we know, do not work. I mean, we have to be frank about this. It doesn't work. But the point is that once the person bought it without, let's say, a prescription, when it doesn't work, they don't have anybody to complain to because they know that it's like you've been scammed.
Fibroids are benign growths that develop from the muscle tissue of the uterus. An individual may have one fibroid or many of different sizes which can grow slowly or quickly. They can also stay the same size. With fibroids, one may have painful and debilitating symptoms that make it hard for one to carry on with their normal day-to-day activities. The symptoms of fibroids may include painful periods, including heavy or inconsistent menstrual bleeding, pelvic pain, fatigue, and weaknesses. For a proper diagnosis, one must see a gynecologist for a pelvic exam. This exam is to check the condition, size, and shape of the uterus. Don't let misinformation keep you in the dark about fibroids. You can best manage your health when you have accurate knowledge. For GBC News, Shelley Bewa reporting.
And that's it for health, brought to you by Lufat, Tobingo's premium gift to Africa. We'll be back shortly. Please stay.